prosecuting the fraudsters in Minnesota, California, New York, and other blue states is a winning message for the Trump administration going into the midterms. We just saw a huge press release coming out of the Department of Justice in Minnesota where multiples of millions of dollars of fraud is now being convicted. Let's get to the latest and let's show you how this is a winning message for Trump, for J.D. Vance, and ultimately for all of America as we tackle the fraud problem in the blue states. So just yesterday, 15 defendants were charged with fraudulent activity in Minnesota. And this clip is going to go over some of the worst. There's common themes amongst all of them, but the most important one is that these are taxpayer dollars that under Tim Walz's watch, the governor of Minnesota, were taken. Where did they go? Are they in Somalia now? We're never going to get this repaid. So the question is, why did it happen? Who knew what? And when did they know it? Tim Walz?
But it's part of perhaps a much, much larger fraud scheme, some $9 billion by some estimates that has been going on out there. So this is a good chunk of that. But 15 people have been charged. You've got, in one scam, you've got somebody charged with stealing $46.6 million that in funds that was intended for autism treatment. Another one of these scams was $22 million intended to provide services to vulnerable adults. Another $5 million intended to feed children, and another one, $1.5 million that was intended to help people with disabilities live independently. It's so easy. You know, when we talk about things like taxes, the incredible taxes that taxpayers pay, and we talk about the services that that Medicaid is supposed to provide to people. This is the worst crime, because not only are you stealing money from taxpayers, but you wind up depriving people of the services who are supposed to be helped by this stuff.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. I mean, if you look again, I'm going to rewind the tape, and you look at some of the departments that were affected. These were funds for autism patients. These are funds for children, right? Feeding children, hungry and needy children. The third one here, $22 million, funds intended to provide services for vulnerable adults. And the last one here, funds intended to help people with disabilities to live independently. America is a generous country. We want to be able to help people that are less fortunate. That's why we have all of these social service programs. But what are we finding in the blue states? We're finding no oversight. We're finding mass amounts of fraud. Right now, the total, this is just at the initial estimates within Minnesota, is upwards of $9 billion. It gets worse. In California, under Gavin Newsom, it's upwards of $20 billion on up to 40 at this point. So again, this is just the initial efforts by the federal authorities, the Department of Justice, HHS, and J.D. Vance with the anti-fraud task force. But that's not the only groups that are looking at the fraud. So Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota has been asked a lot of questions, none of which she's willing to talk to about what she also knew and any connections that she may allegedly have tied back to some of these fraudsters. Well, James Comey is looking into this further, so it's not just the anti-fraud task force, it's not just the FBI, not just the IRS and the Department of Justice, it's now the Oversight Committee with James Comey.
You have not investigated anything. Here's her. Watch.
House Republicans looking into the net worth of you and your husband. Are you cooperating with that investigation and providing the documents?
Looking into anything. They're just saying those things to get interviews with you guys. There's nothing really happening.
They're saying it's a red flag.
He hasn't investigated anything. He hasn't done anything. He hasn't referred me to anybody. He's just saying that so he can get TV interviews, because you guys will only talk to them if they say something about me.
Says you haven't investigated anything, Chairman. It's basically all for attention.
Yeah, she's delusional and she knows better. She's trying to say she made a mistake on her
on her financial disclosure form. No one makes a $30 million mistake on your financial disclosure form, especially if you don't have any assets. You know, if you're Donald Trump or some very wealthy person, 30 million might be a rounding error. But for someone who alleges now she has nothing, that's a pretty big rounding error. And it all stems around two basic things, the problem she has. First of all, she asked for an earmark for a project that was later proven to be a fraudulent project that was involved in that Somali scam up there. And then secondly, she claimed her assets were huge because of this winery that we know has been shut down, that according to rumors and press reports was defrauding investors.
Defrauding investors and defrauding the American taxpayer. That's what is at the heart of this. And again, don't take your eyes off another critical part, which is we're not providing now services to people that need it because the fraudsters are involved. So the question is now starting to broaden to multiple parties, to Tim Walz, to AG Ellison, Keith Ellison, the AG of Minnesota, and now Ilhan Omar. Did you know something? Did you encourage it? Did you turn a blind eye? Did you potentially enrich yourself? All of these are fair questions when we're looking at multiples of hundreds of millions of dollars into the billions of dollars that are at play now with just the initial efforts with these investigations. Do you think that Tim Walz knew? Do you think that Ilhan Omar knew? Let me know in the comments down below. If you've yet to subscribe to the channel, please do so. We made it really easy for you to do that. Right over my left shoulder, you could click my face. That's the subscribe button. We would love to have you join us. And we put 2 videos up here over my right shoulder that are coming up next. Pick your favorite, and we'll see you over there.